Really, everything is a market, isn't it? I just observe it, and you guys are just doing an astonishing job with getting people to do stuff. It feels like there's a bigger agenda here that we're not really seeing. There's definitely a lot going on in Solana. So well done. Keep your head down. Let's keep going. I checked. The last time we chatted was September last year. There's been a lot happening, particularly in Solana. Yeah, we've gone from the entire space having an existential threat to a massive rally, from the lows as well. I have a very close eye on Solana and the ecosystem, and you guys are doing a lot. And I think it's really, really interesting to talk through some of the things you've got going on. So I think the first one that I really wanted to talk through is Saga, the mobile stack, and everything that's happening there, because you're now in launch phase. So yeah, although, everything I've got is integrated in Apple. So the only way it works for me is, and a lot of people have this, is just two phones. Is like one for your Web3 life, because it makes it easy, because it's a nightmare otherwise. So if you solve making it easy, and then you can still keep your Apple Music and everything else elsewhere. So there's another big thing I want to talk to you about, which is the compression of NFTs that you've just rolled out, which I think is a really fucking big deal. So that changes the game for NFTs, I think, because we all know that NFTs are not just about art, PFPs and everything else. It's a contract that can now operate at scale for low cost, ticketing, all this stuff. Where are you thinking this is going, and who's getting interested in this? Because I think it's a huge breakthrough. And my view is, I've been thinking NFTs are really the solution for ticketing and secondary markets and getting rid of ticket scalps and all of that stuff. We've seen Ticketmaster play around with a lot of this stuff. It just feels like now, with something like this and this cheap, it can be tickets for anything. It can be literally tickets for anything. And that's a game changer, because then you onboard tons of people into Web3 without even realizing it's Web3, because everybody has a ticket for something. Well, they're doing stuff in NFTs right now. I mean, they're giving away NFTs. I mean, they've used a couple of different chains already. So, they're all looking. Well, I'm just thinking it just replaces the physical ticket. They've got a digital wallet. It probably costs them about the same cost to process the ticketing, but it means that they get a secondary market in the tickets, and they can have a marketplace, and they get to control a lot. It's quite different. Yeah, but I think that's solvable because, again, with something like ticketing at scale, music tickets, sports tickets, is you just create a marketplace where now you and I could sell. I'm sure there might be a royalty in the smart contract as there is with the standard NFT. Ticketmaster gets paid for the transfer, but we're now free because I can't go to the game. I want to sell my ticket instantly. I don't have to go to a tout outside the stadium, pay a 50% spread. It just becomes very efficient, and it's decentralized in that matter. Sure, the issuing isn't, but then the spread of it is. I looked at hotel rooms. That's another one I've looked at. It's another thing where, I will have gone to cancelled hotel rooms at the last minute. You lose all the money. The hotel doesn't like it because you're not in the bar drinking a glass of wine, eating a burger. And if you could just have them as NFTs, they become transferable. And that solves everybody's problems. Really, everything is a market, isn't it? Interesting. How much activity does it create on chain? So at kind of protocol layer, but meaning, if you're issuing millions of NFTs, is it creating a lot of demand for Solana itself, for Sol itself, or it's because it's very efficient, it's batched? The other big thing you've got going on is these projects migrating onto Solana, like Helium.
Yep.
Talk us through that as well, because that's another really fascinating development where people are kind of abandoning their original thing and then joining up with you guys to use your tech stack. We're going to see more of these smaller projects that had their own chain just migrate across onto the bigger, faster, better supported chains so they can focus on their business and not worry about blockchain. Yeah, because I think some people thought that the value was going to accrue in the chain for a project like that. And so therefore, because they could issue a token, and I think they're now realizing that actually it can stand on its own. An applications layer on top of blockchain can accrue its own value and doesn't need to have a chain itself. I'm starting to think through that this is probably going to be the last wave of layer ones that we see. This next phase. There's a few more to come. We just had Aptos, we've got Sui, we've got a few others. And then it feels like, do we need any more layer ones? The world doesn't work that way in the fact that they don't actually always get traction, because people traction's sticky, it's weird, or it's a specific use case like derivative markets or something like that, because it's very hard otherwise once you've got a broad ecosystem where you can use all sorts of functionality applications and there's a big developer group. If not, it's hard. It also feels like, and I know this is it's one of these trendy things to say, but it feels that AI and blockchain are coming together, and it feels like it's an obvious way to both allocate and pay for compute resources is just using a token system. The other thing is, I remember over the summer when everybody was getting ultra bearish over everything. And one thing that stood out to me was the amount of developer activity in Solana, right? It was a true north for me when I was looking at it. It's like, this is fucking insane. It was trading at $9 or wherever it was, and this massive developer community was remaining vibrant. Your hackathons just seem to grow and grow and grow. I'm not trying to be this is not a Solana promotion piece, but it just, I just observe it, and you guys are just doing an astonishing job with getting people to do stuff. And are you seeing people moving in the direction of these big consumer applications? I mean, the monster is like, we've seen how big YouTube is. We see how big, Spotify is, all of these things where, these big cultural phenomena, music and video and stuff are huge. Are you seeing people starting to understand that all of this can go on chain and it can create a different set of outcomes? I kind of think it needs to come from the Web2 companies themselves, as they're going to have to learn to destroy themselves. I knew the guys at Google pretty well, and they were all scared of disrupting themselves until Microsoft came and pressed the nuke button, and they're like, fuck, we probably don't have an ad business anymore. We need to, and then they'll be less scared of Web3 because they were so scared of it because of it. So I feel like there's lots of Web3 teams in all of those big Web2 players, and maybe. And the other thing I've been thinking through is obviously the digital ID. That's one missing part that we need to operate across all of this system, and particularly with AI and all of that. It's the adoption that's the hard thing. It's the adoption of incumbent players. Yeah, if the KYC layer can be governmentally run, then it's zero knowledge proof behind that. It kind of works, potentially. So that is my other question is what is going on in the US regulation-wise? It's just
confusing.
It's really confusing. It feels like there's a bigger agenda here that we're not really seeing. Yeah, really interesting. I spoke to the team at Franklin Templeton, right? It kind of feels like a boring old asset manager. No, they're running nodes all over the place. They've tokenized a money market fund. And I'm like, well, that's a stable coin. They said it's a stable coin when we get the regulatory approval for it to be so. Yeah, I mean, the world exists with some magical thing called the Eurodollar, which nobody knows about, but it's a multi-quadrillion-dollar market that's kind of unmeasurable. But it's the movement of dollars offshore outside the United States, and it's gigantic. It's probably the world's biggest marketplace. And all stable coins are fractionalized Eurodollars. So somebody in the Philippines can buy, 50 cents worth of Eurodollars. They don't get access to the dollar system. So it's a huge deal. And the US is going to have to cement its role, because if not, somebody else will take it. Listen, there's so much going on, and there's definitely a lot going on in Solana. So well done. Keep your head down. Let's keep going. Okay, as ever, quite a technical conversation with Anatoly. But the point being is that there is a huge amount of activity and innovation going on within Solana. And I think that's the key thing. If you think about network effects, it's not only the number of people who use the network, but it's the interconnectedness, the applications layer on top. And you can see that Solana has a very robust applications layer, second probably only to Ethereum itself. And that's why it firmly remains on my radar screen as we see how it grows out. I'm also really interested in the mobile phone. Now, I'm an Apple user. Would I get rid of my Apple phone? Almost impossible. Could I have a second phone to navigate my Web3 world? Yeah, I'm actually very interested in that. And as Anatoly said, it's the build out of the first iteration before it kind of opens up for the broader Web3 world, and we can finally have that Web3 mobile experience to help scale this even further. So super interesting.